welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you.
So, you were kidnapped by the Uzbek militants and then you were handed over late last year to the Afghan Taliban. Did you ever think you were going to get out alive? You were released in March this year.
I had just, in the position that I was, I had told myself that you will go home one day. Having been there for 4.5 years, I didn't think that February would be that day, February 2016. But I never gave up on finding my way back home, on finding my way back to freedom.
So you got home in March, actually, although you were released late,
no,
late
I was released on the 29th of February, and it took me 8 days. It was an awful trek. From Rozgan in Afghanistan to Quetta in Pakistan.
How did you feel when you finally made it home?
I always say this, there are actually no words for me to describe it. I can say I was very happy, but you know, something that you've prayed for, that you've fought for and crawled like your way back. I just remember when I saw my mother and my wife and my family, it was just this overwhelming feeling. I just thought that it's like I've won this battle. I've made it. I've done what I said that I would do on the first day that I was kidnapped, which is come back, hopefully, as the person that I am, to the people that I love.
Well, I have to give background to this. You're from a wealthy family now, business interests and so on. Your father, of course, was assassinated by his own bodyguard because of his defense of a Christian woman who had been found guilty of blasphemy and sentenced to death in 2010. As a result of that, your father's killing, you were given a security detail, the family. Why on earth were you not travelling with guards at the time of your kidnapping?
Okay, so we were given a guard, and I mean, I never felt like there was this kind of danger. You know, you can't really be prepared for something like this. And I just like to live my life as a normal person, regardless of who my father was, even while he was the governor. We didn't take advantage of his position. And it was him. He was the governor, not us. So we didn't travel in security details. We never kept any guards.
Because you didn't think you were under threat?
I didn't. I thought that my father was under threat because of the stance that he took. Unfortunately,
and he was killed, obviously.
Of course, but it wasn't my stance. It's so difficult to explain, and sort of you fight to be normal, and people expect that you roam around with security details and things like this, but you know, I just...
But you knew Pakistan, you were brought up in Pakistan. I mean, do you think that was now, with hindsight, a bit naive on your part?
No, because nothing like this has ever happened to me. And even now, because I believe that Pakistan, along with a lot of other countries, is the front line of this war. And so, for example...
Which war are you talking about?
The war on terror. And so if people like myself... so leave Pakistan, because, you know, I've even been offered now that you're naive to even stay there with security. Why would you stay in this country? But I'm Pakistani. I have to stay here, even if it's dangerous for me. And I'll tell you, like, as far as security is concerned, my father was killed by his security guard. So, and he always used to say, who will guard the guards? And so that's it. You can't live in fear. I refuse to live in fear.
So you don't think that there was a failure by the state in its duty of care to you? Because Human Rights Watch said your kidnapping underscored the failing writ of the state and its inability to provide security even to those known to be at high risk. So as a kind of general point.
You know, I don't think it's a failure as such, because these people do things with immunity. For example, just take Nice, what just happened in France. How can you prepare for this violent ideology and what it's going to do? You can't be prepared for it. In the same way, I wasn't prepared that I would be kidnapped for 4.5 years. I think those people in Orlando weren't prepared for what somebody did. It just takes an individual who is radicalized and feeling very angry at the moment, and I don't think there's anything you can do to prevent it at the time. Of course, there are, for example, Pakistan, and I can give you Pakistan's example. There are many countries following this example. has started a very serious military operation against these forces. Because of the operation that Pakistan is doing, I feel I had to leave Pakistan and go to Afghanistan, which led to the circumstances of my release. In the same way, it led to the circumstances of the release of the former Prime Minister. And because of
the
this...
son of the former Prime Minister,
the son,
you mean Yusuf Gilani's son.
Yes, Yusuf Gilani's son. And also, this young boy who was just kidnapped, his name is Uwais Shah. I think that because of this operation, they couldn't take him to Afghanistan or the tribal areas, which is why he was recovered in just a few months. He's very lucky.
But you said there wasn't justice a moment ago. For sometimes they do it with impunity, you said. But your father's killer, Mumtaz Qadri, actually was hanged, wasn't he?
And see,
there
now,
was justice if you approve of the death penalty.
It's not justice for me. Justice for me is, I want my father. I've lost him. You can't give me justice. But it's justice for the people of Pakistan. That the Supreme Court of Pakistan hung a murderer regardless of how people would want to, paint him as some, hero-like figure. There are very few people, by the way, who do that. But there were
a lot of people who turned out to his funeral.
I mean, there are, but in a country of 200 million people, I think 100,000, 200,000 people isn't a lot. My problem is, I feel that there is a silent majority that is not standing up for itself in Pakistan. Thus, people are thinking that this is a majority who feel, for example, love for my father's murderer, which I would not agree with.
Well, there were a lot of people, on the other hand, also who celebrated your father's assassination.
It's true. But there were a lot of people that mourned it. I met with the people that mourned it. I met with not thousands, hundreds and thousands. I feel that we had international support, even inside Pakistan. So I look, like I said, I look past the negative.
We'll come back to the implications of what has happened for Pakistan and what it means for the country's identity. But just to go back to your own personal story. So here you are released after this ordeal of being held for nearly 5 years. I mean, what is it like to be held hostage? I mean, you suffered torture, for instance. You had to endure constant torture.
It's, there are no words to describe it. Somebody just comes one day and they take away everything that you love. Small things like just having tea in the morning with a newspaper. And suddenly you're in a situation where you can't do anything, you can't move. Your hands and legs are tied, and the rust of the chains is hurting your skin. It's very difficult. There are no words to describe how you feel. You're not prepared for it. No one can be prepared for it. But I think very early on, what I told myself was that this is not the life that I choose. This situation that I'm in, I will not accept it. This is not the person I am. I wasn't born to be someone's, I don't want to say the word slave, but, captive. But they treated me as if, I was not a human being. Whether I pray, it did not matter to them. They just looked at me as an animal, not even as a, we speak of these people and the things that they do, and we say, these people are animals. Every time, I hear it on news all the time. There's a problem in Nice, in Orlando, wherever, they just say these people are not animals. But these people thought that I was an animal. So
they saw you as subhuman, and what kind of treatment did they inflict on you as a result of that?
In the beginning, I thought just being tied with chains, sleeping on the floor, no bed, just being fed in very small quantities once a day was very difficult. And you will find this strange, and I say this luckily, I was tortured very early in my captivity. And I just drew a line. When they actually raised their hands, I drew a line. I said, I'm going to make it out of this regardless of what they do. Unless they actually physically kill me, I'm going to make it out of this in one piece. That will be my victory.
So when you say when they raised their hand, you were beaten, weren't you, on your back? Lashed, salt was put in the wounds in your back?
They would do these, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen what ISIS does. They try to do, you know, their videos are as Hollywood style as they can be. It's to get a shock reaction. And they wanted this reaction from my mother, and they wanted this reaction from the government, regardless of how much I tried to explain to them that their demand was absolutely ridiculous and no government would deal with them. They wanted...
So the movement of Uzbekistan is who was holding you, the UMI.
Yeah, IMU.
IMU, I beg your pardon. And they are affiliated to the so-called
so
Islamic State.
they are affiliated to the so-called Islamic State, and actually when the Islamic State was, when it was made, Abu Bakr Baghdadi, the self-declared caliphate of, by the way, the world, said, these are the people that I want. Because they shared that violent ideology. And so they could, even while they were living under the Afghan Taliban or the Pakistani Taliban, they did not like them, they could not relate to them. But as soon as this ISIS came along, they instantly, secretly gave them pledge and said, your views, everything that you say is right. So they held me for a long time, but...
You said that they wanted to get a message out to your family, to your mother. So were there videos made?
Yeah, so they would make videos of, you know, they pulled my nails out, so they made videos of it, they sent it to my mother. They pulled flesh out of my back, they made videos of that, they sent it to my mother. They would lash me every day, they would take it up. It started with 50, it went up to about 200. And even that wasn't just lashing, so they would make it as extravagant as they could. Sometimes they would bring 2 people to do it. Sometimes they would tie me against the ceiling or make me lie down on the floor with their feet pressed. I mean, it was to humiliate me. That was all that they wanted. They wanted to humiliate me, and the cause of my humiliation should somehow make my mother pay a ridiculous ransom, which
Do you know
wasn't...
how much it was, the ransom?
I think they asked for something like between $40 to $50 million, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was they wanted 25 militants who nobody knew where they were. So they never actually spoke about the money. It was the initial demand, but for 4.5 years, they just wanted these militants.
So you said the $40 million was not the problem?
No, I mean...
Your family were willing to pay that?
My family doesn't have that money. I'm sure, you know, I don't know, what can I say about the money? It never came down to negotiations about the money. They wouldn't move from wanting these brothers of theirs.
Was the deal done in the end to secure your release? I know you'd fallen into the hands of the Afghan Taliban.
So when I came into the hands of the Afghan Taliban, I was actually in jail with the Uzbeks and other militant groups from Pakistan, and even some Afghan Taliban who refused to fight these people, just said, we don't want to participate in this war. And so they were actually jailed with us. I met an Afghan Taliban there. I offered him money. I said, I'll do what I can. Okay, please, I want to go home. These people for 4.5 years, they've taken my life away. I have a family. I can't give you 25 militants. I can't even give you one. The only one that they asked for that we could do something about was my father's killer. And my mother immediately said, I want my son. I will give this, I will appeal to the government, say I've forgiven him, drop the cases, whatever, I don't care. I just want my son.
Well, that didn't happen, did it?
No, they actually realized that he was from a different school of thought from them. So they declared him an infidel and said, we want nothing to do with them. So this is the mentality that you're dealing with.
So is that how you got released in the end? You paid some money?
No, I didn't. So this Afghan Taliban surprisingly told me, he's like, well, the Afghan Taliban do not believe in kidnappings and ransom. Obviously, I found it funny because the group that had kidnapped me was under their umbrella for some time. I wish they had forced these beliefs on them earlier. But so he said, I'm not interested. I don't want the money. What I think is that I begged, it took me months. What I think happened was he was left with a simple choice. If he stays here, the Uzbeks, sooner or later, they'll be released from this prison, they'll kill him. Or we can kill him, or we can leave him, and I think they just let me go. I mean, they just opened the door of that jail and let me go. I don't know who inside even knew anything about...
No militants were released?
No other...
Like that.
Yeah, nothing.
And
just
no money paid?
No money.
So here you are then now, enjoying your
glass
freedom.
of water.
Yes, and your family, and May that last for a very, very, very long time.
Thank you.
But just to go back to, you know, your family's case, because here you are from this, you know, very high profile, as I said, family. Your father had been the governor of Punjab when he was killed and so on. I mean, he always said, look, I represent the vision of Pakistan, which is the one that the founding father of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, talked about at the time of Pakistan's creation when it was partitioned from India. I tell you something that Muhammad Ali Jinnah said. He said, you are free to go to your temples, you are free to go to your mosques or to any other place of worship in this state of Pakistan. You may belong to any religion or caste or creed. That has nothing to do with the business of the state. You agree with that vision?
That's the vision that Pakistan was made on. So of course I agree with that vision. That is a vision that my father died fighting for. Of course, it's a basic way for humanity. I don't care what race, color, and religion you are. I have to be acceptable, and by the way, it's the foundation of Islam. In Islam, we cannot force someone to become Muslim. God has said it in the Quran himself. He says, you are the messenger. It is me who puts faith in people's hearts. So that's God speaking to you.
Your father had wanted a change in the country's blasphemy laws, under which the woman Asia Bibi, a Christian woman, had been found guilty of blasphemy because she'd insulted the Holy Quran.
Accused
of that, yes, sorry, allegedly, and she says she obviously didn't, and she's still in prison, technically on death row. And he wanted a change in the laws, of blasphemy laws. Is that something you are also advocating?
Look, I'll tell you something my father said to me just a few days before he died. He said, men and countries are defined by how they stand up for the weak, not how they lean on the strong. At the time of my father's death, he was what must seem like fighting a very lonely battle against the oppression of minorities in Pakistan. It's not just the blasphemy law, it's many things. It's the way our society is becoming, and they are persecuting minorities in Pakistan. Now, my father said this law needs to be amended, and any law that does not safeguard the rights of that country's of the country's citizens must be amended. Even some of the ulama in Pakistan that are very happy about my father's murder have asked for amendments in the blasphemy law. They just say that my father deserved to die because he called it a black law. That makes no sense to me. If the ulama themselves are saying that we need change, then we need change. So I can't do it. I'm just an ordinary person. But you know, the people who can, they absolutely must make sure that every national in Pakistan, their interests are safeguarded, their religion, their religious beliefs, their cultural beliefs, everything is safeguarded.
How far do you think Pakistan has departed from that vision of its founding father, Jinnah?
I think that as long as the majority in Pakistan chooses to remain silent every day, we are going further and further away from that vision, and will continue to do so.
You say the majority, so you say the majority belong to a group of Pakistanis amongst whom you would count yourself as the liberal elite. Well, not the elite, but liberal.
It's not even a liberal elite. I would say it's an understanding people who, by the way, are scared, just like you and me or any person in any society, of guns or suicide bombings or extremism. And so they stay silent. And the only thing that comes under focus is a few people who think that they can speak for a majority. I'm telling you now, there is a majority in Pakistan who stand by my father and who stand for basic understanding. And I support them.
Do you see it that way as a majority, or isn't it more a case of perhaps Pakistan is being pulled in two directions? The kind of Pakistan that gave you a woman leader, the late Benazir Bhutto, and the kind of Pakistan that saw Malala Yousafzai, a teenager, being shot because she wanted an education. These are two competing visions.
You know, it'll be difficult for me to explain, but it's the same Pakistan. There are people in Pakistan that say I was never kidnapped. As a matter of fact, just today on my social media, somebody messaged me and said, you were never tortured. Imagine how my mother, who had to sit through these hour-long videos of her son being mutilated on TV.
Why did she watch them?
I think she watched a few, and then she just said, I can't do it, because there's a message in there of a demand. And they would ask her, did you see the video, or should we make another one? How can she sit there and say, I won't watch the video, so you make another one? So it's the same Pakistan. Malala has a lot of support in Pakistan. I support Malala. I think it's wonderful what she's doing for Pakistan.
You do, because you are part of that liberal part. But
I think there are a lot of people. I've actually never come across someone who's had another narrative.
Well, look at the unfortunate case of Kandil Baloch, the recent case of the social media star in Pakistan, mid-20s, wanted to live life as she wanted to, not, and she upset a lot of the social mores and customs and so on, and her brother has allegedly confessed.
Now look, her brother
killing her.
is just a violent person. He's not religious. He's not a Mumtaz.
He said she brought shame on the family because obviously she was quite...
Exactly, right. But he was a drug addict, stole her money and ran off with a phone. So what's that?
Well, allegedly. I mean, that's the case. We don't need to go into the case. I just use her case as an example of a young woman in Pakistan who says, look, I want to live as I want to live, and this is my modern interpretation of what it means to be a young woman. She described herself as a feminist.
Feminist, yes.
But there are many, as you know, on social media who said, oh, yes, she shouldn't behave like that.
I mean, it's hurtful. There are many on social media that say my father deserved to die. Does any human being deserve to die because they want to live life the way they want? There is some intolerance there.
Which side is winning, though, these two
I think that as long as people stay silent, if people don't stand up for what they believe in, nobody else will. America and the United Kingdom won't put, some point in the aid money that they give to Pakistan to please remove the blasphemy laws or to amend them or, give women more rights.
So which side is winning, do you think?
It's the other side, as long as they pick up arms and we stay quiet. The intolerant side. As long as they are being able to dictate terms through arms and violent means and we are just quiet and scared, nobody else will stand up for us.
Well, look what's happening in Pakistan now. 1,000 women killed for so-called honour killings a year is what it's reckoned. You see the violence, as you say. The Muslim lawyer of the Christian woman, Asia Bibi, says he's under threat.
He is.
You said your father died for Pakistan. You look at this, and frankly, he died in vain.
No, I don't think he died in vain. I think it takes one person to bring change. And if there are more, that's even better. I just think people need to get serious about what's happening in Pakistan. I think the politicians need to take responsibility. They can't just come on social media and say, just like Kandil, for example, just condemn it or not condemn it. They have to take steps to ensure the safety of their citizens. It's not happening. It's not just about the blasphemy law. Like I said, it's about any law that victimizes the people. So if there's no women's protection bill in Pakistan, then women will die for honor. What's honor? Whatever I think honor is.
Shehbaz, Taseer, got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for coming on Hard Talk.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.